If you're building products or platforms and ignoring so-called edge users, I guarantee you're leaving money and momentum on the table. Let me say that again. If your roadmap saves accessibility for V2, if your beta excludes people with different bodies, bandwidths, or languages, you're not being lean. You're being short-sighted. Because what tech still doesn't understand is this. Edge users aren't outliers. They're early warnings and often early adopters. Let's talk about what people mean when they say edge user. They're usually talking about anyone who doesn't fit the default. People with non-normative needs, smaller populations, lower frequency use cases, folks who use screen readers, people navigating tech in low bandwidth areas, caregivers, neurodivergent folks, chronically ill people like me. And what do product teams often say? We'll handle that in V2. Or we don't have enough users in that segment to prioritize it right now. Or that's a corner case. Let me make this personal. As a sickle cell warrior, I've been deprioritized my entire life. In hospitals, in hardware, in hiring decisions. But what companies miss is this. People like me, we're pressure testing your systems in real time. We are not the exception. We are the exposure to what's broken, what's missing, and what's not built to last. When accessibility isn't built in from the start, here's what happens. You lose trust with your most vocal, values-driven users. You delay adoption because you have to go back and retrofit what you skipped. You create technical debt that shows up in product reviews before it shows up in investor meetings. Let me put it plainly. If your product doesn't work across bodies, languages, and bandwidths, you're not scaling. You're just reinforcing a narrow status quo. And that status quo, it's not just biased, it's expensive. What edge users can unlock. Here's what I want you to hear. Inclusion isn't just ethical, it's a growth strategy. You know what curb cuts were originally built for? Wheelchair access. You know who uses them now? Everyone. People with strollers, travelers with luggage, delivery drivers. Captions were designed for the deaf community. Now they're essential for videos on mute, for learning in noisy environments, for global reach. Voice UX, developed as an assistive tool. Now it's mainstream, driving millions of daily interactions with Alexa, Siri, and Google Assistant. When you build with edge users, you build better for everyone. You unlock faster trust, greater loyalty. Brand evangelists who say, this product gets me. Because when people feel designed with and for, not just tolerated, they become your strongest advocates. How to design differently without slowing down. Let's bust a myth. You don't have to scrap your product to build inclusively. You need to rethink your process. Ask different questions at the design stage, like, who might be excluded if we ship this as is? What does accessibility look like before we hit scale? Who's in the room when we define a user? Because inclusive by default isn't a nice to have, it's a strategic imperative. This is the work I do every day, helping teams imagine, prototype, and implement systems that don't break when life happens. And life will happen. So let's bring it home. Edge users are not a phase 2 problem. They're a phase 1 insight. If you're building anything you want to last, start here. Start with us. We're the canaries in the coal mine. Hit subscribe if you're ready to design for a future that actually includes all of us. And if you're building something right now and want to make sure it scales ethically and profitably, you already know. I'd love to be in that room with you.